The big question for Bitcoin and crypto price can be seen right behind me if you can ignore these colorful figures right here. I'm on the Bitcoin CME chart, and you have the previous market cycle high, December 2017, right here. It's over 20K on the futures chart. And Bitcoin price just came below it. And if we zoom into here, it looks like it wants to nail this higher low. What happens so let's zoom into that. And so I will do more in depth as we go into the stream, but let's go to the hour chart. Zooming into here, structurally, that's the same green line, right? It looks like it wants to bounce on that line. And you have multiple things in both. And so what I'm going to show you starting off here with Bitcoin is you have Ethereum supporting the idea of a bounce could happen here. Again, the bounce could just link to a lower high before it then all tanks, right? So I'm not saying bounce off to the moon, Bitcoin 30K. Bounce as in it goes up, 5% or more from here, something to that effect. Ethereum is set up supporting the idea that Bitcoin could bounce from here. Traditional markets are supporting the idea that Bitcoin and crypto could bounce from here. And so let's dive into these charts so I can give you these exact levels, particularly for Bitcoin and Ethereum that I'm looking at. And let's go get these charts. All right, why does Ethereum support the idea that Bitcoin could bounce from here? Again, this is CME chart. It is not moving right now because it's closed. CMEs close, what time did they close? Like 5:30 p.m., something to that effect. And they're open, they'll open up back to, or no. Are they open right now? Let's see here. No, they close over the weekend. I apologize. So, yeah, I was thinking of traditional market CMEs. No, the CME for Bitcoin is closed. I'm sorry. It is closed. The futures for a traditional market are closed right now for about a half hour, then they'll reopen. I apologize. I was thinking of traditional markets, how they close for an hour. All right, now let's look at how Ethereum supports the idea that a bounce could happen here. Or a swipe down, then bounce. So check out Ethereum on the 1 hour chart. Zoom way out. Let's take off the origin lines. And let's look at it this way. So Ethereum got above the top channel line, trading channel, that dates back to April. So this is months and months and months. Got above. So let's zoom back into here now that we have the bigger perspective. Got above the top of the channel, used it roughly as support, made essentially two higher highs, coming down now to potentially use that as support. However, I think, though, that both Bitcoin and Ethereum overnight, even if there is a bounce from here, which I think it seems probable, even if there is a bounce, I think there could be one, what people might say, scam swipe down, or like the opposite of a scam pump. I can see price grabbing down real quick before it happens, and I want to show you those exact levels on both Ethereum and Bitcoin. But before I do, make sure you follow me on Twitter. I have Cosasverdes with the number 2, where I post some bomb charts across traditional market and crypto, and the Discord community has links in every video in the description section. And if you work too many hours and you need to do things on your time, recordings of Discord live shows and JPEGs 1 to 3 times a day, 6 to 7 days a week for market updates. The YouTube tier might be for you. You can go ahead and click the join button below. Most of my videos and another video will pop up describing what you get. And again, with those YouTube tiers, I answer your questions first during the live streams. Okay, now here is why we could get a swipe down and where. Add on the origin lines for Ethereum. So you see how Ethereum has played with this blue origin line right here? Zoom down, you tried to use it as support, went below it, went back above it, went way below it, touched what? The other origin line just below it. So see this blue line? That was a perfect long signal. and I did hit that, and I got the next higher low. I played this almost perfectly mostly on Bitcoin and Ethereum though. What happened there? Let's see here. I didn't play some of this other stuff very well, but this part I did because it was too obvious. Origin line and the bottom of the channel line. Anyway, but it hit the next origin line down, then went straight up to this origin line. Hit the point of control of the trading channel. Essentially failure, rejection pattern to this blue line, the origin line. Big drop down, hit the point of control of the trading channel, zoomed back up to the origin line. Another higher low, zoomed up where? The origin line. Now it's so during this, here's the thing though. Did it use it truly as support before it zoomed up? This is why I think a swipe down could happen, even though this is a great point for Ethereum to want to bounce. But look at this line. It never truly used it as support. So I think it's like whatever, is controlling crypto price to in terms of most trading volume, which is bots, high trading algorithms, essentially. I think they might want to touch this before they are quote unquote happy. And that level is roughly, let's just call it 13.15. I could see, even if there is a nice bounce from here for Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto, I think it might swipe down here, and it would probably happen tonight or early tomorrow. And again, I'm on New York time, and right now it's Tuesday, July 26th. Bitcoin level for that would be somewhere down here, and I want to show you why you have confluence with that as well. It is a micro channel line, as you can see here. But if you add in the macro channel line, which is something I think I covered in my last Bitcoin non-live video, it intersects with the macro line as well. Right there perfectly. And so sometimes when two important lines cross, so let me make this less busy and get the macro channel off. It just looks like it might want to come down there. But if Ethereum does want to bounce from the top of its trading channel, I guess Bitcoin does have justification to bounce too, because this line here, it is the equivalent of the line I started off with, the CME line, right? At the beginning of the video where I said, hey, over here, it's the market cycle high of 2017. It's essentially the same thing. And this horizontal, you need to draw that horizontal on your chart, first off. So let's stop what we're doing and let me make some demands of the viewers. You need that on your chart. For the CME reason, and if you go to the daily, it's what I believe will be perceived widely, even though it's questionable, but I think it'll be perceived as such. It is the threshold of the daily chart being in an uptrend or not. So if a daily closes below there, the trend will officially be in a no trend, because you won't have both a higher high and a higher low. You will have only a higher high, but not a higher low. So you'll have it'll break the daily uptrend. And so, but that line is happening exactly, and not coincidentally. It's likely there because it was a retest on the CMEs of that line, right? But on the spot trade chart, you have an independent reason at the same exact area. And what I could see happening is this daily candle closes, if you can see over here, in 1 hour and 47 minutes. Okay, over there you can see it. I can see the day closing above here, and then tomorrow whips down to get it, and then tomorrow potentially green, and maybe even green the next day, but it might be a little questionable. But I could see a nice swipe down, and then it flips green. Does that make sense? So at the beginning, the whole day will be red, perhaps until, let's say, 10 a.m. on Wednesday, which would be the same daily candle, and then it flips green. Something like this. See how this, so zoom into here. See how this swiped down to touch the bottom of this line, the bottom channel line? I could see that happening. Something like this. Maybe not with this much continuation, but that's pretty damn tradable. I can kind of see that happening. And let's go ahead and take a look at traditional markets, which do mix into here. Let's see here. Here we go. So NASDAQ futures are at a point where they could bounce. So right now, nope, they just reopened 4 minutes ago. Okay, so that's why I was confused with the CME stuff earlier, because I was like, wait, did it close for this hour? But I think the CMEs are 24.5, and these charts are 23.5. Yeah, I was getting confused for a second on which one's closed or not. But anyway, this is tied for the second most important straight line in all of the history of NASDAQ futures. It's tied for the second most important straight line. Okay, it's an origin line, and it's tied for the second most important one. And there's been a lot of interaction with it recently. This idea, even though it came back below here, I think you could have a little bit of fun between this channel line, which is less macro than this origin line. I think you can have some fun in here, generally use this blue line of support and give one more try up. Does that make sense? So this is roughly in line with the idea that Bitcoin could bounce. If you could get back above this blue line, use it as support and give one more try up, potentially all the way back up to the top of the trading channel, or maybe slightly lower. Maybe a 45-degree angle to this high here, something to that effect. 45-degree angles really work. Is that 45-degree angle exactly? Maybe not, but it's close enough. Might be like more like this is 0, maybe like 30 degrees or something, but something to this effect could happen, which is kind of what I'm thinking. I think Bitcoin could end up forming a lower high before really tanking, but bouncing from current position. So, and in SPX, SPX is more supporting the idea of a swipe down. It looks like it might want to touch this. So this is an origin line, and this is the channel line. So this line here is more macro than all of this. Even though this goes up to the top of the stock market, it's a macro trading channel. But what's even more macro than a macro trading channel are the origin lines, because they go back to the beginning of price for that. Whatever you're looking at. I could envision a swipe down here at market open tomorrow before it tries then bouncing, which could make Bitcoin finally hit those targets before then giving a bounce. So the nature of how Bitcoin bounces could be pretty finicky, especially if Bitcoin drifts up overnight, and then when market opens, this all races down to touch and then levels out and starts going up throughout the day or later than the day after. But I could really see that happening. So I think that looking at SPX on spot, so this is closed. This is closed when traditional markets close, right? So this chart is going to be really important to look at New York time between 9:30 and roughly 4 p.m. Because I'm going to be looking at that exact line very, very closely. It's going to be key. And if Bitcoin happens to be in Ethereum happen to be at those levels as S&P does this, it adds a lot of probability that Bitcoin will bounce from that area. That would be a lot of cohesion across different assets and maybe even industries, really. Let's see here. What else do we got? So I am personally looking for a bounce, but I think it's possible, that in just general thinking, if you have 3 general ideas, see if I can find my, no, I put it on CMEs, didn't I? Yes, I did. So if you have 3 general ideas of what's getting ready to happen throughout this potentially strange week in regards to a bounce or not, is it does bounce, and this is Bitcoin CMEs, right? It does bounce, and it makes a higher high, which is possible, particularly if the Fed only raises rates by 75%, which on Wednesday, so tomorrow, per this recording, it'll be announced at around 2 p.m. New York time on Wednesday the 27th. So if you see that happening, I think that this could be, something to this effect. It bounces and makes a higher high. That could easily happen. Is it guaranteed to happen? No, but I would probably lean towards that. If something to the effect of 100 points, if it's 75 or 100, I would also keep this into consideration. It does look like it's going to pump, but it ends up forming a lower high, comes back down to this ever important line that I started the stream off with, and then fumbles around as traditional markets try to get all this economic high impact data. They don't do much, and then it tanks from there. And then it makes the second choice is it does bounce, but it makes a lower high. And then the third general idea is that it just gives an bounce and then goes back to this line and starts failing it, getting rejected by it. So among the grand scheme of things, what's going to happen this week, I think what you see behind me here, I mean, just in general thoughts, using this line as the main basis point, which I had it marked. That's the line I asked you to draw on the spot trade chart. I had it labeled. I think it's 20,780 on spot, somewhere around there. You need that line, but this is on CME chart. It's a slightly different, but it's in tandem. In general, how is price going to behave around that line? I think there are three general ideas, and these, my exact guess is no, but the three general idea is bounces makes a higher high, bounces makes a lower high, or doesn't bounce and then it uses it as resistance and fails. So no matter what happens, if you start getting a stronger bounce this week, well, you know that red is out. So you can start deducing the avenues, like the realms of possibilities of what Bitcoin's going to do. And then obviously, from there you can have a little bit better understanding of where's price going to go. So if price starts zooming up, you realize, okay, this could end up being just a lower high at roughly a 45-degree angle, maybe even at this trend line, something around here, something around that trend line. And you would want to be defensive around that area. I mean, most likely you'd want to be really defensive, actually, if that were to happen. But if price ends up getting above and beyond that, even before this green makes a higher high, if it starts getting above that trend line, you would think, green is starting to look more probable. We're going up from here, and Bitcoin might race up to, 25, 28, 29K potentially. And that's so I would roll with this week by levels, but I cannot stress enough, so eyes off. Let me put on a different background right here. There we go. Now I just need some sunglasses. It's really bright. But maybe this would be better. There we go. But I think in general this week, it's going to be, if you're somebody who clicks around a lot, it's going to be really tough to play this. It's going to be very, very, very tough, especially if you're using futures and leverage. It's going to be so hard to play this. I want you to keep that in mind. And it's likely that if you're playing futures with leverage, Wednesday, Thursday, you have a high chance of getting your butt kicked because you're going to be trading against very heavy impulses of high frequency trading algos that are designed with perhaps tens of millions of like R&D work within, the last 10 years or something. You don't want to trade against that. It's going to be heavy impulses of that. And that is based off the idea that there's a lot of high impact economic data coming out. But regardless of that, without trying to scare you, to keep, a basis, keep yourself based just in general, I would look for three general ideas. And as price moves, start deducing or recalibrating your probabilities of which one of these is going to play out using this line that I asked you, at least on spot trade or on spot price, to draw in. And maybe if you've drawn this trading channel, like I've tried to get people to do quite a bit, it's going to give you a really, really good guide, right? Now, in my last Bitcoin video, I talked heavily about the daily RSI, so let's see where that is. So right now, it's still pretty inconclusive. It hasn't come back up to the EMA to get rejected or even interact, so let's zoom way in. It hasn't done this yet. So nothing's really changed. You can't tell if this is going to be a higher low or not. But as this week and next week rolls out, I promise you, you're going to be able to get a pretty good signal from that. Another thing that I'm looking at is the 12-hour Stokes. So you can see during each of these three oscillations, 1, 2, 3, dating back from June, the 12-hour RSI down below. So let's, these are the, okay, 1, 2, 3. These oscillations have gotten things mostly right. So if you start, could it stop being right and it just wiggles around here forever and price keeps going down? Yeah, it might not do the same thing. It could do something like this effect, zoom up and then whatever happened here, that could happen again. So it might not be the best guide. Let me get rid of these other ones. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it could wiggle up and then just really scream down. It's possible, but just keep in mind that throughout all these oscillations, this has been a pretty good, 12-hour Stokes have done a pretty good job it's possible that they continue doing a good job. So if you get a mixture of some type of bounce signatures on just bare naked price, and then you start seeing a cross up on these stokes, so the blue, which is the faster moving stoke, goes above the red. Yeah, you get some fake outs and pullbacks after that happens, but it is an extra layer of mild confidence on top of your guess of direction. So don't hesitate to use. If you're using the free version of TradingView, you can't use the 12-hour. You would have to go in and change the stoke parameters on the 4-hour daily, I guess, to make it the same. You can play around with what's in there, so you could technically have the exact same thing, but you'd have to be on the 4-hour, the daily chart, and then you'd have to modify these. I don't think I can do that off the fly real quick during a live stream. But those are the overall things that I'm looking for on Bitcoin for a higher low to bounce, on Ethereum, and on traditional markets. I gave you all the key lines, and hopefully this is able to guide you through the week. And to sum up, I cannot stress enough, this week is a lot of high impact data. If you're trading with futures, you're likely going to get your butt kicked. So I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but if it's probable you'd get your butt kicked, especially on Wednesday, that might mean just take a day off and let other people get their butt kicked. I can't suggest that enough. It's going to be very, very tough to play against what's getting ready to happen. And I seriously doubt it won't be a week of whalish, high impulse, high frequency trading stuff that really does fake out after fake out, and you could get some straight up, straight down moves, as we've seen multiple times throughout this when high economic data came out. Straight up, straight down. Like within an hour, or sometimes over 8 hours, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's within like 20, 30. I think there was one back here. I can't remember. I think it was right here, that wick. I think it all happened in like 45 minutes. It's 5. I think it was 10. No, it was this guy. It was 10. It was at the 6-month close. It was 10% up in 30 minutes and then straight back down. And I think there was high impact data released too, but you had a very important closure. So I don't think it'll be 10% ridiculousness. That was weird. But it could be 5% swings on Bitcoin, which is huge, both ways. Just getting you out of your position or stopping you out over and over and over before you took profit. It's going to be very tough. So stay safe this week. Even though you have your nice guiding lines that I think I've provided pretty well, it still won't be perfect. And the algos can really move price on 5-minute candles either way. Be careful. All right, here we go.